Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Morgan. This is my channel Pisces Paperbacks, and Happy New Year! When you are watching this, it is now 2023, and since it is no longer 2022, I can make my little best and worst lists of the year, and so this is going to be my best of 2022. Full transparency, this wasn't like a great year of finding favorites for me, so I have 5 books that I think were memorable, I really enjoyed, or I really loved reading them, and then I also have 3 honorable mentions that I'm going to mention at the end. These are the books that were probably actually my favorite reads of the year, but they were rereads that I originally read in a previous year, so they don't count. And I will mention them to give respect where respect is due, but they don't count for a favorite of 2022. So the first 3 books I'm going to mention were 4.5 stars, and then I only had 2 new 5-star reads this year, and so I'll mention them at the end, kind of going from not worst to best, but like building up to the number 1. So the first book I want to mention is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. This book was just so fun. It's a fantasy romance, but it's true like high fantasy, ye old medieval fantasy world, but like a true romance. And it was so fun. I don't remember the main character's name. Maybe it was Cinnamon. I believe her family sold spices, and it was kind of a thing that all of the children in our family had names that were spices. But she is walking home from a fair in town one day, and she accidentally rescues a demon from getting attacked. And that demon comes to her house and is like, "You need to help me overthrow the evil witch that's controlling all of the demons in the world." Because the history of this land was that the demons like went crazy and attacked everybody, and now they're just like constantly being fought off. But there's like a benevolent god that kind of everybody prays to. She's like the god of their religion, and she so kindly keeps all of the demons sequestered in like the frozen tundra area of the continent. And so this demon comes to Cinnamon's house and is like, "Yeah, so all of that's a lie. Your god is an evil witch, and she is mind controlling all the demons to be feral. And so we need to go break them out and kill God." Where she's not God, but your God. And Cinnamon's like, "I don't really want to do that. That seems like a lot of work." But she kind of goes along with it, and they fall in love, and they get steamy, and it's honestly, it was so funny and so charming, and I really, really loved it. The second book, That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf, was also good. Much smaller scale of like a story, because it's kind of post this first book where the big thing happens, but it was so cute. I literally cannot wait to read anything else Kimberly Lemming comes out with. I think she only has the 2 books and a novella out so far, and they're on Kindle Unlimited, so highly recommend if you like romance, if you like fantasy romance, like, it's good. It's really good. My next 4.5 star book that I want to talk about is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I'm sure this is going to be on so many people's favorite of the year this year. It came out this year. I pre-ordered it. I read it in one day. It was so delightful, so cozy, 100% a comfort read. I kind of expected it to be like a 5-star, like all-consuming love type feeling for the book, but it was just, it wasn't quite there for me that way. But overall, it was just, it's so sweet, so charming, so thoughtful, and it's absolutely a book I'm going to reread someday, and just for that alone, I think it deserves a spot in this top of the year. It is about an orc, and after several years of being an adventurer and a mercenary, she's like, "I want to cut my losses and get out of the game and retire and open a coffee shop." And so she kind of forms this found family and this devoted patronage of her coffee shop, and it's about them coming together and learning about each other and overcoming obstacles, and it is so sweet and so lovely. My next book I want to talk about is called The Wolf at the Door by Charlie Adhara. This I loved. This is the first book in a 7-book series that is paranormal romance, and it is kind of Teen Wolf meets Criminal Minds. So I don't remember any of the characters' names, but the main character is I think CIA agent, FBI agent, and a few months prior to the beginning of the book, he had been attacked by a werewolf. And he didn't know about werewolves before then. He was attacked by a werewolf, and when he woke up, the government was basically like, do you want to learn more? And he was like, I need to know. And so he got sucked into this smaller subsection of a federal agency that is specifically like government agency police for werewolves. He gets sent to Maine to investigate a possible werewolf-related crime, and in an effort of building trust and community with the werewolves in America, they pair him to partner up with another werewolf who is very handsome. This first book in the series definitely focused more on like the mystery and establishing characters, but I believe it's one of the series where you see the main couple, it's like the same characters throughout the entire series rather than other romance series where there's a different couple in each book. So I really loved this. It was really good. It was so interesting. I really liked the main characters. They had good tension, good chemistry. There was like a sex scene or two that was not half bad, and I literally can't wait to read. I bought the first book maybe a year ago, and I read it this year, and then I finished the book and immediately purchased the rest of the series. Like, I'm so excited. I can't wait. And this is one of the reasons that I want to focus on series this year, because I don't want to just let this series languish on my Kindle. I bought the books. I want to read them. And then for my first of 2 5-star reads this year, Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker. So this is a delightfully charming fall Halloween-y graphic novel about a young witch and her werewolf friend, and they are investigating a possible cult that wants to get the werewolf friend, and it is just so cute and so queer and so delightful and so charming and witchy and lovely, and I keep saying lovely, and that's because it was. I need to get my own copy so that I can just like look at it and feel the vibes. It was, I think I read it in the summer, but it would have been a perfect October read, like perfect. There is a relationship between the witch and the werewolf, and they live with the witch's lesbian grandmas. And it's so good. It's so good, and it's so beautiful. And last but not least, absolutely not least, because it's my favorite new read of the year, A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. So this is the most beautiful, touching, heartfelt romance that I've read in a really long time. So this book is about Viola, and she took the opportunity to reinvent her life when she was presumed killed in action several years ago. So she's a trans woman living with her family in historical England, and she basically cut off all contact with anybody who knew her in her previous life. And now it's a few years later, and she reconnects with her oldest friend, Justin, I think. And she had assumed that with the killed in action label on her past life and with the time to move on, that her friend would have been okay. And she is devastated to discover that he is actually sunken into a very bad depression and doesn't really resemble the man she once knew. And so in an effort to kind of reconnect with him, a new love blossoms out of that, and it's so good. It's so good. I do think it's a little long. I think that the third act conflict, there's like a confrontation that happens during the third act conflict that I think was way too drawn out, but literally that is my only complaint. This book is utter perfection. It's so genuine, it's so loving, and I really couldn't recommend it enough. I have not read any other books by Alexis Hall, but I just purchased one that I bought in my most recent vlog, so you should watch that. And yeah, it's absolutely the most memorable book I read this year, which is honestly not saying much. I had a lot of real flops this year, but it was so good. Before I go, I'm going to mention the honorable mentions of this list, which in actuality are probably my favorite books I read this year, but they were rereads that I read in previous years, so it's not fair to put them on this list. But those books are Gideon the Ninth and The Sum of All Kisses. So Gideon the Ninth I talked a lot about in my November wrap-up, so I will link that here. It's an incredible fantasy sci-fi murder mystery gore adventure that is so fucking good. And The Sum of All Kisses is a historical romance by Quinn that I have talked about previously, I read it 4 times this year. It was, without a doubt, the book that I turned to when I was really struggling or down and just needed something that I knew would make me happy. I love this romance so much, and I think this year is confirmed for me. It's one of my favorites of all time. That being said, I do hesitate to recommend it because I do think there are serious issues with some of the way some themes are handled in this book. And not even considering the issues with like how certain things are treated, I do think that the third act conflict and the conflict in and of itself in this book is one of the stupidest things I've ever had the displeasure of reading. And now I've read it 5 times. So, like, I keep doing it to myself because I love the romance so much. It's weird because I don't think that it's a particularly standout, like, situation of the chemistry between I mean, I do. But when I'm looking at this book objectively, I don't think that there's something, like, different about it. It's just something about these 2 characters and the way these 2 characters feel about each other that absolutely enchants me. And I love this romance. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Those are my honorable mentions, and those are my favorite books of 2022. Let me know in the comments what your favorite books of the year were, and if you've read any of these and what you thought of them, because I would love to know. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!